for blogs, for songs, doing that which is right and writing that which is wrong, a life so unheard of and unseen that it could have only been uniquely crafted by God just for me.
Hey fam, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Empowering Creativity, where I empower others to live purposeful lives through creativity. Today I am here with my very first guest on the show, my friend Tofunmi.
Hello.
And Tofunmi is also a Christian writer, and she writes poetry and spoken word. And so I thought that we would just talk about our processes behind writing and get to know Tofunmi a little bit more. And by the way, check out her Instagram because her stuff is so beautiful. I was telling Tofunmi beforehand that some of her stuff, pretty much all of her stuff, I've literally cried. It's just so powerful, and she talks a lot about social justice issues and things like that too, which are so important in today's time especially. So go and check out her Instagram page and listen to her stuff because it's awesome. Just to give you some quick context as to how we know each other, Tofunmi and I actually lived together for 4 months when she was on co-op and I was going to university, and it was a really great time. We bonded over our Christian faith and were able to grow in our faith together through going to some Bible studies in university together. And then we found out that we both really like poetry, and that was awesome. And fun fact, she also was one of the first people to know about me and Peter dating at the time, because we started dating around the same time that she was actually living with me, and so she was one of the first people to know. I actually didn't tell anyone when Peter and I first started dating that we were dating. We didn't really let a ton of people know. So Tofunmi was actually one of the first people to know. Fun fact. So without further ado, Tofunmi, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came about writing spoken word and poetry and
Sure. I'm Tofunmi. I am currently a student. I study mechanical engineering. I moved to Canada in the 8th grade. I was born in Nigeria. And I think it was around that time that I started getting into poetry. English classes, there was a poetry unit, and it was my favorite. I think I just enjoyed creating pretty words, if that you could say it that way. And so after the unit was done, I would write my own little poems here and there that were probably really cringy, overly emotional, but I wrote them anyways.
I mean, what teenager isn't overly emotional?
Honestly, I was just things weren't that difficult back then, but I made them out to be. And I think it was in grade 11 that I started writing poetry seriously. There was a newsletter at my school that was going to be sent out to parents, and I was like, I want to write something for this newsletter. So I sent them samples of my work, thinking that they would want me to write a weekly update. And then I included one poem from grade 8, not really thinking much of it, but just showing them the different kinds of things I could do. And they were like, your other stuff is nice, but we really like the poems. So do you want to write poems every month for our thing, which is so cool. And very unexpected, because I was like, this was a fairly emotional poem about something that probably wasn't that deep. But so I started writing poetry every month. And then a friend introduced me to spoken word poetry, and I was like, this is so cool, because not only is this me writing, but this is me getting to use my love of theater to performing on a stage. So that's how it got started.
Wow, that's so cool. What is your favorite part of writing poetry?
I feel like it's the same weird part of me that wants to be an engineer, the whole creating something out of nothing. Just having a feeling and being able to put it into words. And I feel like poetry is the most honest way that I can express myself, because I can pretend in conversation, but there's something so special and almost sacred about poetry. And I feel just the honesty that you can bring, and just pretty words, for lack of a better description.
That's awesome. I love how you put how you compared it to engineering, because I feel a lot of people think that engineering is just a science-based thing, or what's it called, like right side of the brain type of thing, but like it can totally be like a creative thing and like a left side of the brain thing, and it is, yeah, I really like how you put it that way.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely, like that has been like a struggle of mine, like can I be an engineer and be a poet? Like it doesn't really make sense, but like I feel like the more I've done poetry, the more I've been able to see that like common thread in between.
Yeah, for sure. And like there's got to be center brain people out there. I feel like you're one of them.
Hopefully. Or like yeah, hopefully that's the case.
Is there like a Christian artist that really inspired you to keep going and keep writing?
I would say the whole like Poets in Autumn group, so like Jackie Hill Perry, Preston Perry, like Ezekiel, Joseph Solomon, like all of them, like just their whole ministry, I'm like, dang, like they're performing poetry and like they're sharing the gospel, and just the fact that they get to travel to different places, I'm like, I would like to do this when I am older. So I think just their whole ministry in general has been such a blessing to me.
Tell us a bit about the course thing that you did with why am I blanking on his name again? I blanked on it.
No, Preston Perry.
Preston Perry.
So I did a spoken word course with him. Almost a month ago now, I think. He offered an online training because of COVID, and I was like, I will sign up. I've never done like specific poetry like teaching before, like never attended a class, so I thought I should invest this time that now that I had it. The class was just so encouraging to me and also so challenging in a way, because I feel like as a poet I've been very like individualistic, like just do my poetry how I like to do my poetry, and it was so cool to have someone like almost mentor you, like and say like, I think you could be better here, and like also affirm the good things that he saw in my work. So
for sure. I like how you said that too. Like I feel like poetry can sometimes tend to be, or people tend to think that it's only like an individual thing, but like it can totally be a communal thing too. And like how we were talking before, Tofunmi and I were talking about how we should do like one of those spoken words where like two people like speak at the same time, and how like powerful that is, and how it would actually be really fun to do that together. And I feel like that's like a communal part of poetry as well. Is like you can totally like speak it together, like do spoken word together and stuff, and I think that's like bringing it back into like the Christian perspective, like the community in that is like so important, and you can like lift each other up and feel like you can really feel Christ through it. Sometimes like I listen to spoken word and I'm just like I hear God's voice, and it hits you to your core, like we were saying,
just like, well, I'm convicting.
It's so true. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. And our next question is, what is your favorite piece of yours that you've written, and could you read it or perform it?
I think, I don't know if I could say I have a favorite piece, because like always writing new things, but I think the most meaningful piece to me is called Piece Number 1, and it was the first poem that I ever performed by myself, and it was also the first piece I performed at university. I can read it, it's on my phone.
Actually, just before you start, when like spoken word artists perform, I don't know, some of you might have seen this before or heard of this before, but when you like what they're saying, some people like they kind of go like or like they say yes, or but other people also just like snap their fingers, and usually when they're done they snap their fingers instead of clapping, because clapping can be like quite noisy. So I encourage you, if you're watching and listening to this now at home or wherever you are, you can just snap your fingers whenever you just like feel the intense like conviction or whatever it is that you relate to that she's talking about. So I encourage you to do that as you watch too.
That'd be so cool. So here's piece number 1. I believe art requires a certain amount of bravery. There is fear in living, but I found more fear in giving, and art is giving an audience pieces of your life and praying they're entertained by your emotion and your pain. Sometimes I wonder if a few years into my career as an engineer, I'll realize that art was not just meant to be my quiet passion and my honest release, but my entire life, my essence, my being. I worry that 5 years of my life would have gone to waste, that I would have an engineering degree when all I truly wanted was to perform on a stage. But I try not to let myself think that way. I claim both art and science after all. By my very nature, I choose to dream, I choose to wonder, and I wonder if it's possible to do it all. To not have to choose, to be an engineer and an artist, to win for myself and not make anybody lose, to make a living and to live a full life, full of color, full of tears, full of constantly pushing past my deepest fears, truly and fully living and giving the best in the broken parts of the girl that I was and the woman that I am becoming. A life in which my poetry leaves the notes on my phone and finds home in the heart of a girl who spends her days wandering through friendships and wondering if she'll ever be worthy of a relationship. A life in which I tell a story through the movement of my body of pain, because I have known and I have seen my share of pain, of shame, because I carry scars for which I'm the only one who can be blamed but of love. Because for every shame I can name a time and a way that I have been shown life. A life in which I will move close enough to the microphone to be heard by all and not run away, where I will stop worrying about how I sound and just thank God for the place and the stage on which I am found. A life in which I will speak publicly, declaring that which I know to be truth and watching as my God sets other young people like me free. A life in which I wake up each day seeking technical solutions to the human body's problems, stretching my brain to its capacity in order to reduce someone else's pain or incapacity. A life in which I use my words for more than just poetry, but for books, for blogs, for songs, doing that which is right and writing that which is wrong. A life so unheard of and unseen that it could have only been uniquely crafted by God just for me. And despite the million concerns that come to mind when I think about that life, despite the discouragement that I know will arise from the mouths of those around me, despite the small but loud voice of anxiety that tells me I am not the artist that I claim to be, that God couldn't want that life for me, and in spite of the fear that I will go on and press on with this dream and fail, that you won't like my poems, that my singing is too average, that I haven't been dancing long enough, that I won't get published, that I might not even get hired, I believe in God. I believe in His purpose for me, and somehow I still believe it is found in that life. And I believe that art requires a certain amount of bravery. There is fear in living, yes, and I may have found more fear in giving, but I will put fear aside yet one more time and choose and hope and pray to believe that this wonderful and meaning-filled life is the one that I will be living. This poem, this performance, it's just the first piece of it that I'm giving. So thank you.
That was so awesome.
Thanks.
I love it so much. Like I feel like it speaks to a lot of what many students are going through right now, and just like that part where you said the fear of like not being hired and stuff. I'm like, that's literally like a fear that so many students have too, of like, what if I spend like 7 years in school and then I like never even get a job? And it's just like, but the way that you brought it all together in the end and like pointed it back to God, of like God has a plan and a purpose in that, like it's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Actually, I'm gonna put this into two different parts.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about your process in writing? Like how you, like kind of maybe what your first steps are, and then how you sort of finish it off, and
Sure. I can try to tell you, because unfortunately I feel like with other things in my life I'm more like structured, but with writing it's kind of just like all over the place. So I have like a running list on my phone called thoughts, and I just, whenever I think of a line of a poem or of a song or of anything that I think could sound beautiful, I write that line down. And then when I feel like when something is weighing heavy on my heart, or like when I'm asked to write something for like write a piece for something, then I go back to that list. I see like if there's anything that I can pull. And I feel like I'm constantly editing myself. I don't think there's like a structure that I follow, but I feel like this has worked okay so far. So that's what I do.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. And I feel like that's a process that like other people can totally learn from too. And for me too, whether I'm writing like poetry or like short stories or something too, I remember in one of my creative writing classes it said to have like a storyboard and how things are going to work out, and like kind of you know, have your ending, but then go backwards from that. And I'm like, I don't operate that way. Like, I'm so like all over the place. Like, oh, that could happen in the ending there, and then that could happen there, and then like, and just like little pieces and stuff. And then somehow it just like all comes together in the end. And so everyone's process is different. And yeah, I think like that's a great process to have. And
Thank you. I appreciate that.
yeah, for sure. Last question. Do you have any tips or like pieces of encouragement for young writers or people who are just starting out in writing?
Yeah, like I said to you before, like I feel almost funny answering that question as a young writer and as someone who's just starting out, but I will give my little wisdom at least. Hopefully it encourages you. I feel like one thing that I've been told and that I'm trying to implement more in my life is that forced creativity sounds forced. So like, don't beat yourself up if you're not creating something like every day or every week or even every month. I feel like the best things that the things that I've written that I'm most proud of happened when I wasn't expecting to write them. I just kind of just started writing words and things came out. And I would also just say, don't edit yourself. As hypocritical as me saying that sounds, just try to let all your thoughts come out and then wait to edit like a while later, because I feel like we're our worst critics. That's so true. And like it's so easy to just like beat ourselves up too, and like compare. And I feel like so easy to just as creatives to like compare our pieces with like other people's pieces and things like that. But it's like, yeah, God's given us all like different giftings, and yeah, that's a really good tip to just like not beat yourself up. Not beat yourself up. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing this. Of course. Do you have any like last thoughts or things you want to share? Not that I can think of, but thank you for having me. This has been so fun and so cool.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again sometime.
Definitely.
We'll write that communal piece of poetry together.
Oh my gosh, stay tuned.
All right, thank you everyone so much for watching. If you have any more questions for Tofunmi, feel free to comment them down below, and we'd love to answer any of your questions. And also don't forget to follow her on Instagram. You can also ask her questions through like the DM on Instagram too.
I would love that.
Thank you for watching, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Bye.